The 18th Nigerian Economic Summit is a clear demonstration, as has been pointed out by the chairman of NESG, of this successful public-private partnership between the public sector and the private sector. The theme is also quite appropriate. I think the chairman of NESG has gone through the theme, so in order to save time, I think for me it represents this continuation of the dialogue on governance and Nigeria's future prospects. The strategic planning framework in Nigeria is captured on the next slide. Obviously, the long-term direction is the Vision 2020, which is captured by a number of short-term or short to medium-term programs, like the National Implementation Plan, which is currently being reviewed. Quite coincidentally, the MDGs and the transformation agenda of Mr. President coincide on the target date of 2015. And I'll be saying a bit more about this. Obviously, closely linked with the annual budget, which is the shortest term plan. Now, the transformation agenda is the current administration's medium-term development strategy to speed up the country's achievement of the vision. It is a roadmap of the key policies, programs, and projects of the federal government between 2011 and 2015. The key objectives of the transformation agenda are job creation, laying a solid foundation for robust, broad-based, and inclusive growth, and improving the well-being of Nigerians. Clearly, the key goals also are strong, inclusive, non-inflationary growth, employment generation and wealth creation, and value reorientation, with all these other sub-goals that time will not allow me to go through. But these three are the key important goals that we're working on. Obviously, in terms of outcomes, jobs, jobs, jobs. Creation of jobs, creating of wealth, or addressing the issue of poverty, better resource allocation, elimination of corruption, and sustained economic development, all through trying to achieve three key focal areas: good governance, infrastructure development, and human capital development. And in assessing how far with the transformation agenda, I'm actually going to focus on these three areas of infrastructure, human capital development, and good governance. Now, starting with infrastructure, a concerted effort, as was mentioned by the chairman of NESG, is being made by the government to improve the physical infrastructure in the country. A 30-year national integrated infrastructure master plan is being developed, and this is to allow for more coordinated approach to infrastructure development. And we will, in the process, get all stakeholders involved, including the private sector. In fact, we have already made contact with a lot of private sector agencies, professional associations, and so on, in order for them to be involved. Let me take a few key areas and sector areas and just give highlights. The beauty of this is that this is just to introduce the subject, because in the afternoon we have the breakout sessions where the individual ministers responsible for these areas are going to be available to go dig down deeper into what they are doing in the specific sectors. Agriculture, steps being taken to significantly expand food production by 2014. The figures are there: how much rice by 30%, sorghum by 30%, cassava by 15%. I think we are all aware of the effort in terms of cassava bread and so on and so forth. There's nobody better placed to tell the agriculture story than the Honorable Minister of Agriculture. He will be around in the afternoon to actually tell the story. And obviously, another key important target of addressing agriculture is job creation, because it certainly has probably the best potential in terms of creating jobs. Oil and gas, there is a special session on the PIB at this summit, so I don't even have to say too much about this. The Minister of Petroleum will be around to address this and some of her staff. The issue of deregulation of the downstream petroleum sector to block leakages has been mentioned by the chairman of NESG. The partial removal of subsidy in early 2012 with a savings of over ₦1 trillion. The payment of subsidy claims now is being subjected to greater scrutiny and verification. In the area of power, again, the Honorable Minister of Power will be here in the afternoon with a lot more detail, but clearly everybody must acknowledge that there has been a general improvement in the supply of electricity in the whole country. Electricity generation has stabilized at about 4,000 megawatts. The strong regulatory body of NAC has been put in place and has gone into action. Effort ongoing to strengthen the weak transmission network, and the unbundling and privatization of PHCN and other reforms of the sector are actively going on now. In the transport sector, progress has been achieved on the railways rehabilitation. 3,329 kilometers of the narrow and standard gauge rail lines rehabilitated will be rehabilitated by 2012-2013. When the Minister of Transport comes here and the Managing Director of Nigerian Railways, I have booked my ticket of the first Lagos to Kano train. I've reminded him at every occasion that I'm still waiting for the day that I will join that train, because I have some very strong memory of the first journey I made to Lagos from Kano was by train. Construction of the Abuja-Kaduna modern standard gauge rail line has progressed quite considerably. Ongoing reforms of the ports, reducing the clearing time. I've learned a lesson recently from the Vice President that I probably shouldn't say how long it takes, but this is one of the issues that will be discussed, I'm sure, when the Minister of Transport is around. But clearly, the ports are now working 24 hours, and I think this is something that has to be acknowledged, and it's part of the solution to the problem of the congestion and the time it takes in the ports. In the road sector, again, this was in fact something that was added after the initial program was drawn up. The Honorable Minister of Works will be around to go into great details. But dualization of a number of key roads in the country, and the rehabilitation, especially taking advantage of the dry season now. A massive work is ongoing to take advantage of the dry season, especially in the southern parts of the country, also to make it safer for the Lenten and Christmas season when a lot of movement takes place, especially to the south and southeastern part of the country. On aviation, again, the ongoing rehabilitation of the existing airports, remodeling and reconstruction of 11 airports by the end of December 2012, and construction of 5 new airports. Again, the details will be provided by the Honorable Minister when she comes in the afternoon. Education, concerted efforts. This is in the area of human capital development now. Clearly, health and education are very critical there. Arising from recent reviews that have been made of education at all levels, basic, tertiary, and especially university education, and a number of presentations to the Federal Executive Council and other National Economic Council. A task force on education has actually been raised by the National Economic Council. It should be reporting at the next meeting of NEC. And this shows that concerted effort is being made to address education at all levels or all tiers of government. And clearly, the role of the private sector will be identified.